Hey YouTube, well this will be part 1 of how to breed leopard geckos, and right now I'm just going to show you basically the beginning steps of how to breed. So first off, you're going to need a male and a female. The difference between a male, now this is the underside of a leopard gecko, the male will have very distinct pores in a V shape, kind of like that, and they will also have 2 bulges at the base of their tail where it meets their vent. And the vent's like basically a piece of skin that's connected to the belly. And for the females, they will not have those 2 bulges, and they will have a very slight V for their pores. The males, it's way more prominent to tell, so that's the difference between male and female. And these rings are just the start of a tail. Tail goes on to go like that, and kind of like a carrot. Anyway, so first off, you're going to need the male and the female. Next up, when you're thinking about breeding, you're going to need materials. Now, this is a list of materials that I think that all people should get before breeding. So the first is nesting materials. Now, I like cocoa fiber. Now, that's a coconut husk ground up. So it's basically like a dirt, but it retains moisture very well. And basically, I see other people do perlite mixed with cocoa fiber, moss, vermiculite mixed with cocoa fiber or peat moss, stuff like that, as lay box as well. And I've even seen vermiculite and perlite used at the same time for a hide. I don't like those. I think that's a little bit rough on the eggs and possibly could injure an egg. So I feel cocoa fiber is one of the best things, and you can really see them digging in the substrate, so that's really good, and it's really easy to sift through and get your eggs. So I really like cocoa fiber for that. You're also going to be needing a nesting box. Now, by a nesting box, I mean a place for them to lay eggs. Now, what I like to use is I like to use Ziploc containers and cut out a hole on the top. I actually stab the top of the Ziploc container like a big one, not like a little one, like about a decent sized one, I should say. And like a big one, really. And I stab a X-Acto blade in there, and then I use scissors and I cut around it. And that works out pretty well for me. I really like that method, and you just put tape around the edges. That's what I do. I see people solder it out too. That's fine too. Adequate housing is always a big thing, especially for breeding leopard geckos. You really want adequate housing, and you're also going to want a spray bottle. Now, this spray bottle is going to be used to spray your nesting materials, so your cocoa fiber, perlite, vermiculite, peat moss, whatever mixture. I honestly, though, feel cocoa fiber is the best, and it really does retain humidity very well, so I really suggest getting this, and it's kind of like cheap. You can get it in really big bags or get them in the bricks, and it works fine. You're also going to need an incubator. Now, you might want to get 2 depending if you want males or females. Leopard geckos have temp sex babies, so I will go into that when we get to incubation later on. But you might want to have 2, because you might want to just get all males, you might want to get all females, or you can just use one and get 50-50. I'm going to go over on how to do that later on when we get our first clutch. Alright, next thing that you want to be prepared about is hatchlings. So you want to have a hatchling setup of sorts made before you breed. I feel like that's a big thing. You really want to have your stuff all made. I mean, literally, and you want to test it out too. That's the other thing. First time I bred, I got my rack done 2 days before my first eggs hatched. Really rushed it, and I wasn't even expecting the eggs, and sometimes you don't even expect the babies and they'll pop out. So definitely have that before you decide to breed. You want to have your hatchling setups. Now, if you're breeding one leopard geckos, figure 10 slots for babies to have set up. That's a good rule of thumb. Sometimes it can go up to 20 babies for one female, but I like to just say 10 because some females won't lay more than 8 a season. So it depends on the female and how well she's doing. Vitamins. This is a big one. You want to get really strong vitamins, and I will go over this later in the video. I really like Vitonate and osteophore MSA and a different type of calcium as well. I also have made videos on a vitamin mixture that I like to use, and it has worked really well, especially last season. It just proved out so much and worked wonders for me. Alright, I went over hatching materials. Ziploc containers, I like to use those for the eggs. That's basically what that is. Ziploc containers for incubation. So you can get like the nice like square sandwich type ones and put in. Basically, you're also going to want hatching materials, meaning vermiculite, perlite. I like vermiculite and perlite. You can use hatchite too, but hatchite's just perlite with water gels. And you do have to mix it. They say that you don't, but if you don't mix it, you're going to kill your eggs. So just giving you a heads up there. So definitely vermiculite, perlite, or hatchite, either or. And you're going to be wanting to do a ratio when you get to that. Ziploc container to put the vermiculite and hatchite in and soak it. And again, the spray bottle comes into play again because you want to evenly soak it and then mix it up. But we're going to show you that later on in incubation one. Gram scale calculator and thumbtack, and all these are included in incubating eggs. So basically, for beginners, when you're beginning out, you're going to want to think of pairings. You're going to want to think of the leopard geckos that you want to get. So morphs come into a big play. Now, when you're thinking about morphs, just decide which albino strand you want to start off with first. So there's Tremper or the Texan leopard geckos. I heard of them being called the Texas leopard geckos because Ron Tremper, the inventor of the Tremper albino gene, lives in Texas, so that's what it's also called, which I thought was kind of interesting. The Bell albino morph, or the Las Vegas. Now basically, or rainwater, they're called the same thing. Basically, you're going to want to pick one of the three types of albino strands and basically stay along it, because you cannot cross any of these albino strands, because once you do that, it's called muddying the water. Basically what that does is you won't be able to tell when you cross them. You won't get albinos, you'll just get normals, double het for both albinos. But when you breed those double hets together and you produce an albino, you won't know like which one's Las Vegas or which one's Bell. So that's what it's called, muddying the water. So what the breeders do, because they can't tell the difference, is they keep the lines pure. So Trempers are with Trempers, Bells are with Bells, and Las Vegases are with Las Vegases. It keeps everything a lot simpler, and it keeps your genetics clean. When you're going to breed, when you're beginning off, I like to say, pick a morph that you really like and try to reproduce it, or try to produce the morph that you really like. Like, I grabbed two Super Max Snows and I produced a Super Snow. That's the morph that I really liked, so I got it. So, that's what I did when I first started breeding. And also get your pairings from breeders. Once you get it from pet shops, you're not going to know the genetics, which can be a big problem for future projects that you might have in mind. If you don't know the genetics, you can't trust if it's Las Vegas, Bell, or Tremper if you buy it from a pet shop. If you want to breed pet shop geckos, which I always suggest buying from breeders because you're going to know exactly what you're getting. If you buy from the pet shops, though, and you want to breed, I would breed pet shop gecko to pet shop gecko. I'm not going to say that you can't. I've seen people do it, and they worked out fine. But I like to say buy it from good, small business or large-scale breeders that know exactly what they have. And that's honestly what I suggest to start off with, especially for breeding leopard geckos. But if you want to breed pet shop geckos, go right ahead. I'm not going to stop you, but you just got to sell them as pet shop geckos. They're not going to be any fancy morphs that the big breeders or serious hobbyists will be having. So, and you can't really incorporate them into the projects because you don't know what they are. Alright, next step, to breed leopard geckos, you're going to need ovulation. Ovulation is basically an egg follicle that is unfertilized. Now, you're going to see two fat bodies no matter where you are. There's always going to be these two fat bodies that are going to be there. Now, ovulation starts off small and then it gets bigger. And this is also another fat body by the vent, or the vulva. And basically, these are just fat bodies. They aren't eggs. They do look like eggs, but they are not. this will turn into an egg. And once your leopard gecko starts developing eggs, when you kind of like tilt them back, you're going to see veins throughout their body, throughout this side of their body or this side, because they can hold 2 eggs at a time, lay single egg, lay clutches of the 2 eggs or 1 egg. So they could have 1 egg or they could have 2 eggs. But once this egg follicle is fertilized, it will develop into an egg, and then the leopard gecko will lay that egg. They can also lay dud eggs. That's not uncommon. They say, especially for first-time breeders, they lay dud eggs. I haven't had that happen. If you breed them at the right time, quick enough, and you catch that ovulation, I get my first clutches fertile. Like, I would say 90% of the time, I get my clutches fertile, or 99. I've really been pretty good about it, so I haven't had infertile first clutches. So that's my how to breed leopard geckos little quick starter off video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Comment, rate, and subscribe.